For 2,000 years, empires have risen, conquered, and collapsed around this city. It is still here. In 71 AD, the 9th Legion marched north into Britannia, uncharted, hostile. They chose a low hill between two rivers and hammered in the first stakes. They called it Eboracum. Within a generation, it was a city, roads, bathhouses, a forum, the beating heart of Roman Britain's north. At its peak, Eboracum was home to over 6,000 soldiers and a civilian population that rivaled any city north of Londinium. 3 emperors visited Eboracum. One was declared here, Constantine, in 306 AD. He would go on to reshape an entire civilization. His story began on this soil. Then, around 410 AD, Rome recalled its legions. Eboracum was abandoned. The streets that once carried an empire's traffic fell quiet. For decades, the city was ghost and ruin. Then new settlers came, Anglo-Saxons, who found not rubble but raw material. They built on Roman bones. By the 602nd, Eboracum had a new name, Eoforwic, and a new identity as the capital of Northumbria, one of the most powerful Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. King Edwin ruled from here. Under his reign, a small wooden hall became the seed of what would eventually become the largest Gothic cathedral in Northern Europe. 866 AD, the Great Heathen Army arrived by river. They didn't raid Eoforwic. They captured it in a single day and renamed it Jorvik. What happened next surprised historians for centuries. Jorvik didn't collapse under Norse rule. It exploded. It became one of the largest, wealthiest cities in all of England. Excavations at Coppergate in the 1970s found an entire Viking street preserved in waterlogged soil. Workshops, homes, debris, the most complete Viking Age urban site ever discovered in the world. Jorvik was a global trading port. Arabic coins found here, silk from Byzantium, amber from the Baltic. This was not a backwater, it was a crossroads. The Norse left marks still visible today. Every street ending in Gate, Gudrumgate, Miklagate, Gillygate comes from the Norse word gata, meaning road. You are still speaking Viking in York. For nearly 90 years, York was the capital of a Viking kingdom. It took Alfred the Great's grandson to finally end it. Jorvik fell to the Anglo-Saxons in 954 AD. By the time the Vikings left, York had been Roman, Anglo-Saxon, and Norse. Each civilization had added a layer. The city was richer for every one of them. But what came next would shake the city to its foundations. In 1066, William of Normandy crushed Harold at Hastings. England fell. But the North, led from York, refused to submit. York rose against William twice. Both times, he crushed the rebellion. The second time, he decided to make an example of the entire North. In 1069, Norman forces burned every village, slaughtered livestock, salted fields from York to Durham. The Domesday Book, written 17 years later, still recorded entire districts as simply waste. William built 2 castles in York to hold it. One still stands, Clifford's Tower, a monument, then and now, to the price of resistance. In 1190, York's Jewish community, merchants, scholars, families, who had lived here for generations, were trapped inside Clifford's Tower by an angry mob. The mob had been inflamed by anti-Jewish sentiment spreading across England ahead of the Third Crusade. The community had nowhere to go. An estimated 150 people died that night. It remains one of the worst anti-Semitic atrocities in English history. A stone marker now stands at the base of Clifford's Tower in memorial. For 250 years, York built, not a palace, a cathedral, generation after generation of stonemasons, glaziers, and carpenters who would never see it finished. The Great East Window, completed in 1408, contains the largest area of medieval stained glass in the world. 311 panels depicting scenes from Genesis to Revelation. In an age before mass literacy, stained glass was how most people encountered visual storytelling at scale. These windows were the illuminated manuscripts of the poor. Henry VIII's dissolution of the monasteries reached York in the 1530s. 12 major religious houses, centuries of accumulated scholarship and art gone within a decade. St. Mary's Abbey, the Gilbertine Priory, fountains just outside the city. Architectural masterpieces reduced to salvage. Parts of them still exist inside York's walls. York Minster survived, damaged, stripped of much of its decoration, but structurally intact. Its scale had made it too politically important to destroy. In 1644, York was the royalist stronghold of the north. A parliamentary army laid siege for 3 months. Inside, the city slowly starved. The decisive battle came at Marston Moor, 46,000 men. Cromwell's cavalry broke the royalist line. York surrendered days later. General Thomas Fairfax, commander of parliamentary forces, had grown up near York. He issued explicit orders. The minster was not to be touched, not a window broken. York had survived a Roman withdrawal, Viking conquest, Norman brutality, religious upheaval, and civil war. It was about to enter its most unlikely era yet. In the 1840s, steam changed everything. York, already a crossroads for 1,800 years, found itself at the center of the new railway network. George Hudson, the railway king, made York the hub of the North. By 1850, more trains passed through York than any other city in England outside London. The city grew faster than it had in centuries. The chocolate company's Rowntree's, Terry's made York one of the most progressive industrial cities in England, with model worker housing and social programs decades ahead of national policy. In April 1942, Hitler's Baedeker raids, named after the tourist guidebook, targeted England's most culturally irreplaceable cities: Bath, Exeter, Canterbury, Norwich, and York. 92 people were killed. The railway station was hit. Residential streets destroyed. But York Minster, the specific cultural target, was not touched. The Minster had survived another century's attempt to end it, this time by coincidence, partial cloud cover, and the decisions of individual Luftwaffe pilots. History turns on such things. In July 1984, at 2 a.m., lightning struck the south transept. The medieval timber roof, 700 years old, caught fire and collapsed. But the fire revealed something extraordinary. Hidden beneath centuries of plaster and later additions, medieval stonework of exceptional quality that no one knew existed. The restoration took 4 years. Craftsmen, stonemasons, woodcarvers, glaziers, rebuilt using the same techniques as the original builders. Some of those craftsmen were training apprentices who still work in York today. Today, 8 million people visit York every year. They walk on Roman road alignments. They pass through gates with Viking names. They stand beneath a ceiling that 30 generations of hands have built and rebuilt. Every period of York's history left something physical. The layers don't cancel each other, they accumulate. Walk far enough in any direction, and the ground beneath your feet is a timeline. York holds the National Railway Museum, the Yorkshire Museum, Jorvik Viking Centre, and one of the most complete sets of medieval city walls in Europe, all within walking distance of each other. Most cities have one great story. York has a dozen: Roman fortress, Viking capital, Norman stronghold, medieval powerhouse, railway hub, each version of the city built on the bones of the last. What makes York extraordinary is not any single event or building. It is the sheer improbability of continuous occupation 2,000 years on the same piece of ground through plague, fire, conquest, and war. The Roman soldiers who built Eboracum could not have imagined what their fort would become. The Viking traders of Jorvik did not know their street names would survive for 1,000 years. No one builds a city thinking it will last 2,000 years. York just did, and it is still being built.